Hey there, pirates. Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. The dark secret of the lost century that the D hid from everyone would be a revelation that would shake the core of One Piece, connecting the legacy of Joy Boy, the Great Kingdom, and the mysterious initial D. And you have no idea how this is going to change the course of the story. In fact, you're about to find out now. The Lost Century, or Void Century, is the period 800 years ago that the world government erased from history, as revealed in Chapter 395 in Ohara. In Chapter 1115, Vegapunk reveals it was a war between Joy Boy, leader of the Great Kingdom, and a coalition of 20 kingdoms that formed the world government, with ancient weapons like Pluton shaping the world. The D, like Luffy, Dragon, Ace, and others, are called enemies of God by the celestial dragons in Chapter 1085, suggesting a dangerous connection to this past. Luffy, as Joy Boy reincarnated in Chapter 1043 with the Hito no Mi model Nika, is destined to uncover this secret. Perhaps in Elbaf or Laugh Tale, where the poneglyphs in Chapter 967 hold the truth. The theory proposes that Luffy discovers a dark secret. The D were a revolutionary force of the Great Kingdom, feared for their fight against oppression, but with actions so extreme that the kingdoms saw them as villains, and their survival to this day is a mystery of clandestine resistance. Imagine Luffy with his straw hat and Nika's smile, deciphering the last poneglyph in Laugh Tale with Robin, in the style of Chapter 967, where Roger laughed at the truth. The dark secret would be that the D, members of the Great Kingdom, led a rebellion against the tyranny of ancient kingdoms, using weapons like Pluton and Nika's power to try to free the world. But their actions, perhaps destroying entire islands or challenging primordial gods like Emu in Chapter 1085, were so devastating that the 20 kingdoms labeled them as demons. In Chapter 1115, Vegapunk says the world sinks because of the Lost Century. The secret could be that the D, in their fight for freedom, activated ancient weapons that sank continents. A heroic act for some and villainous for others, hidden by surviving D to protect their legacy. Luffy would discover this through a message from Joy Boy on a poneglyph, like in Chapter 1046, where Zunisha hears the drums of liberation. The message could reveal, we, the D, fought for freedom, but our power scared the world. We hid the truth so that the next Joy Boy could carry it. Luffy, with his free laugh in Chapter 1045, would scratch his head, confused. So the D, you are like me trying to save everyone, but why do they call us demons? He would laugh like Roger in Chapter 968, accepting the weight. Heroes, villains, whatever. Let's make the world laugh again. Are the D&O heroes or villains? The answer is a moral gray area that Oda loves. In Chapter 1085, Emu calls the D enemies of God, suggesting they are villains to the celestial dragons. But Luffy, Ace in Chapter 576, and Dragon in Chapter 432 fight against oppression, like heroes. The theory suggests that the D were heroes to the Great Kingdom, fighting for equality with Nika and weapons like Pluton, but villains to the 20 kingdoms, who saw their methods perhaps destroying oppressive nations with tsunamis or solar explosions as demonic chaos. In Chapter 1115, Vegapunk mentions that the Great Kingdom was advanced but lost. The D Haikuis may have sacrificed islands to try to win, like Akainu destroying ships for justice in Chapter 397. Upon discovering this, Luffy would say, heroes or villains? They fought for freedom like me. Whoever calls us demons is afraid of our laughter. His naive perspective, like in Chapter 398 when saving Robin, would redefine the Dias as heroes who dared to challenge tyrant gods, even paying the price of being hated. It would be epic to see Luffy, with Gear 5 glowing in Chapter 1045, embrace this legacy, laughing, if being a villain means making everyone free, then I'm the biggest villain of all. The 20 kingdoms feared the D for their power and radical ideals. In Chapter 1115, Vegapunk says the Great Kingdom was technologically superior, with energy rivaling the sun, like the Mother Flame. The D, as leaders or warriors of this kingdom, used mythical fruits like Nika in Chapter 1044 and ancient weapons like Pluton in Chapter 1060, capable of wiping out nations. Imagine an ancestral D like Joy Boy, destroying an oppressive kingdom with a solar punch that sinks islands like Luffy does with Kaido in Chapter 1049. This would terrify kings seeking absolute power, leading them to form the coalition that became the world government. The kingdoms also feared the ideology of the D, total freedom, like Luffy preaches in Chapter 1045 when liberating Wano with his laughter. In Chapter 967, Roger discovers that the Great Kingdom dreamed of a world without tyrants. The D spread this idea, inciting revolts against monarchies like Dragon does in chapter 432. It would be wild to imagine Luffy reading the poneglyph, exclaiming, "They were afraid because the D wanted everyone free? Then Imu is the real villain." The fear came from the D, his potential to topple hierarchies with divine powers and world-altering weapons. The connection of the D to the Great Kingdom is the heart of the secret. In chapter 1115, Vegapunk reveals that the Great Kingdom was an advanced civilization, destroyed by the 20 kingdoms. The D were its leaders, warriors, or heirs, like Joy Boy, who used the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika in chapter 1044. The initial D could be a code, perhaps Dawn, symbolizing the sun that Nika represents, or even God, linked to the mythical fruits the D carried. In chapter 967, Roger discovers the One Piece and laughs. The theory suggests the Great Kingdom created the One Piece as a legacy for the D, a plan to revive freedom hidden in poneglyphs that only Robin can read in chapter 398. Luffy, as the reincarnated Joy Boy, is the direct heir. In chapter 1046, Zunesha confirms that Luffy carries the spirit of Joy Boy. The D-Hupper may be a spiritual or genetic lineage chosen to carry the will of freedom. It's insane to imagine Luffy in Laugh Tale seeing a statue of Joy Boy with a D engraved, saying, "So my family fought for this? Time to finish what they started." The connection is that the D were the heart of the Great Kingdom. It's Solar Warriors who challenged Imu and the Kings, and Luffy is the final flame of this legacy. The D survived through a mix of secrecy, destiny, and inherited will. After the defeat of the Great Kingdom in chapter 1115, the D were hunted by the 20 kingdoms, like in Ohara, in chapter 395, but some escaped, hiding their identities. In chapter 1085, Cobra says the D appear in various families, suggesting it's not a direct lineage, but a spiritual trait passed through generations. Like the will of Haki in chapter 519. They survived by blending in, like the Nefertari, who refused to become celestial dragons in chapter 1085, or living in secrecy, like Saul in Ohara in chapter 392. The will of the D, like Luffy's determination in chapter 1, or Dragon's Revolution in chapter 432, is what keeps them alive. In chapter 968, Roger says the D are chosen by fate. Perhaps Nika himself as a god protects his bearers, like Luffy surviving poisons in chapter 548. It would be epic to see Luffy, upon discovering this, laugh, "So my ancestors tricked the whole world. Awesome, let's do it again." His crew, like Zoro in chapter 485, would support him, with Robin explaining the D are like embers. They never go out. Survival is a miracle of resistance, with the D hiding their secret until the right moment, which Luffy represents. Luffy's reaction to the secret would be pure One Piece essence. Upon deciphering the poneglyph with Robin, he would be confused, scratching his head. So the D fought for freedom, but sank the world? That's kinda crazy. But like in Water 7 in chapter 398, he would turn doubt into action, laughing, "Heroes or villains, I don't care. Let's do what the D wanted, a world where everyone laughs." His naive perspective, like in chapter 1045, would redefine the Dark Legacy as something positive, with Gear 5 glowing as he says, "Imu, you're scared of my D? Plus, then I'll show you what it can do." It would be amazing to see the crew's reactions. Zoro slicing the air. "If the D are demons, then I'm a demon with the captain." Sanji lighting a cigarette. "Let's burn this ancient secret." And Robin smiling, "Luffy, you're the answer the Great Kingdom was waiting for." Luffy discovering that the D were warriors of the Great Kingdom, feared for their radical fight for freedom, would be a moment that redefines One Piece. They are heroes to the oppressed, villains to tyrants, connected to the Great Kingdom as its defenders, and survived through destiny and will. Luffy, laughing like Nika, would turn this dark secret into a call to action, saying, "The D wanted a free world? Then I'll make it happen with a giant feast." Sir, this theory, with Luffy facing Imu under the weight of the lost century, would be the climax of his journey as the Pirate King. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.